Well, joining me in the studio is public affairs analyst, Bola Oba. Thank you very much for joining.
Thank you very much for the opportunity once again.
So this week has been flooded now. Different angles to these insecurity issues that we've been having, the killing of farmers in Borno State and all of that. Now, on top of that, Northern Elders came out and called for the president's resignation in the midst of all of this. I want your reaction to this.
My reaction to it is that it is appropriate and proper in a democracy to tell an elected officer of state to resign if you reasonably believe that he has performed incompetently. And to be honest with you, a certain General Muhammadu Buhari, retired as an aspirant of the then newly formed political party, APC, also once sat before a camera and enjoined the then president to resign as a result of what he believed to be the then president's incompetence in the area of providing security for the polity.
So it's not out of place.
He once did it. Some group of persons are doing it to him. I may not think is feasible. I may think is exhibitionistic. I may think is patronizing. I may think there may be a dint of partisanship in it. That is Gwalaba, my opinion. But you know what? It is the legitimate right of all electors in a democracy to freely express themselves.
Okay, so in the midst of all of these killings now, is it appropriate to ask for his resignation despite, let's leave politics out of it now?
Very, 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 very appropriate. Like he also asked for the resignation of Dr. Goodluck Ebele Jonathan when some of us were supporting him and we felt that call was appropriate.
So do you expect the president to resign on these grounds?
I don't know. I was pleasantly shocked yesterday when a number of TV stations called me yesterday, and I was saying with a degree of conceit that President Muhammadu Buhari was not going to countenance heeding the invitation to the House. But as at this juncture now, is a reality that has contradicted or gainsaid my earlier position. He has heeded, no date fixed yet, but it's a pleasant surprise for me. So, you see, the request is legitimate, but it behoves him. It's incumbent on him to decide if he's going to hit it or not.
Okay, so still talking on security now, the Nigerian army has said that it will enlist the services of the civilian JTF, that include them into the army, enlist them into the army, so as to aid the fight against this insurgency.
Let me start by saying this on the army. We have an army of heroes. We have an army of volunteers. We are not feeding our army by conscription. People voluntarily go for recruitment. And I celebrate the heroism of an average Nigerian soldier. But you know what? Leadership is failing them big time. Military leadership, political leadership. So I'm sitting here now wanting Nigerians to know that an average Nigerian soldier, when you see them, in fact, go the extra mile to celebrate them. But you know what? This leadership is confused. The military leadership and the political leadership, totally confused.
Well,
this is the same army.
Why do you think they are confused?
This is the same army that is on the one hand against the wishes of many of the soldiers, rehabilitating and assimilating terrorists into his ranks.
They were rehabilitated.
This is
ex-terrorists, we'll say.
My brother, I have ample examples in the United Kingdom, in France, in the United States of America, that one of the toughest things to do in contemporary military psychology is to supposedly rehabilitate a terrorist.
Why is that hard? Someone has come out and said, I do not want to become a terrorist again. So is that a hard thing to do?
There is enough evidence collected by scientists, psychologists, in places like United Kingdom, in places like France, in places like United States of America, to say especially terrorists whose terrorism are born of Islamic fundamentalism. Islam is the beautiful religion, but some perverts have abused the gracefulness and the beauty of that religion. But I'm telling you that there are rich enough evidences across the world that Nigerian army, with the limited resources it has, the resources that it ought to be using to reinforce the welfare of the soldiers, of the heroic soldiers, and indeed increase the equipment and the platforms of the soldiers, wasting it on those ones.
You call it a waste?
The rehabilitation program, I say with a degree of
is it not a success? Are we not seeing any degree of success in this program?
Let me keep. One of the things I learned early when I left these shores, especially in a part-time law class in England, is when you feel so agitated, hold your tongue. Success, as in SUCCESS, for.
So if we've not recorded any success in this, why do we have to conscript them into?
You see, I can't sit here and tell you we have not recorded any success. You know, there was a time, let's give it to President Muhammadu Buhari. There was a time when he first came in, the swords of Nigerian territory were literally under the control of the Boko Haramists. And they were flying their ugly black flag, their perverted flag, across about 20 local government areas of Nigeria. At a point, the military, as a result of the change of leadership of the military, gave it to them. I wonder why the same president who deemed it fit then to change the leadership of the military, and the military was revitalized with new ideas, and the new leadership, the new leadership C-suite. I wonder why he's so stuck and so dogmatic and so religious about keeping these ones in office. But you see, that is the topic for another day.
No, it's still the same topic. Now, if it to change the architecture now, will it solve the problem? Will it end the fight against insurgency?
You see, when we all use change the architecture, we must be very careful. It's a very generic, very nebulous word. You know why I say it's a very generic, very nebulous word? You just showed a footage not too long ago. The police. And, you know, let's be fair with the police in some respects. There are some bad elements in the police that has brought them this infamy, that has brought the police this. There are some in the police who have brought them infamy. But I want to believe they're in the minority because I've got friends, schoolmates, and they're still in the police. And I still relate to them, and I know their mentality, especially in the officer corps. But having said that, you've just showed the footage in Ondo State, where as a result of the disillusionment that most police operatives, especially the rank and file, are feeling now, the police is a bit withdrawn. And we saw in Ondo State that is even the Amotekun that is now going out to arrest, alleged felons or alleged killers. I'm sitting there thinking, is it not about time we readdressed the constitutional architecture of our security? So
does it mean you're agreeing that the army is right in wanting to employ members of the civilian JTF?
You are conflating issues that are not related. You are comparing oranges with apple.
But
you know why?
Amotekun is to complement the police. The civilian JTF is to complement the army as well, and the army wants to conscript them into their fold.
The civilian JTF can work with the army. The army can find a way of operationally engaging the civilian JTF. But we must remember that even working with the civilian JTF must be common. The army is a specialist institution that is trained in specific use of violence to achieve positive goal for the polity. And when I just hear people chanting civilian JTF, and that was the same line of argument that was pushed to the very limit by supposedly rehabilitating and assimilating terrorists into the ranks of our military. So, my brother, I celebrate the heroism of civilian JTF. And they have to be heroic because they are practically, civilian JTF operatives are practically fighting the Battle of Alamo, fighting to protect the ancestral, the integrity of our ancestral and our aboriginal lands. But you know what? Army, to be a soldier anywhere in the world, especially in the age of technology, is becoming is a very skilled job. And I would suppose that civilian JTF, if the constitutional re-engineering were to be done, the civilian JTF should have been the indigenous, aboriginal, autochthonous civil entity that should be complementing the security. But as we speak, all the 27 ministries, departments, and agencies, including the military, all the 27 recognized by the Nigerian Constitution, are literally answerable to one person, one man. And this man seems, in all intent and purposes, and with due respect for the man, this was a man I once campaigned for. The man is tired, intellectually and mentally. This man is tired. He can't even go to Borno as we speak. He's been sending delegations. The president ordinarily, if he decides to go to Borno today, would literally be helicoptered from Aso Rock to the airport, from the airport board a flight that will take him to Maiduguri, and he will be chauffeured in some of the best automobiles on the face of the earth to wherever he wants to go. He can't go. Are we deluding ourselves? He's a good intentioned man. But you know what? Sometimes you get swamped by the reality of the circumstance. This gentleman is swamped by the reality of the circumstance.
So talking about the reality of the circumstance now, Governor Zulum has suggested that they employ mercenaries to fight this war. Will that help as well?
He spoke in frustration, disillusionment.
He's the governor, the chief security officer of the state.
And give it to him, yes. Look, I'm sitting here now as somebody born in Lagos, raised in Lagos, and resident in Lagos. My brother, Professor Zulum, is one of the most respected, for me, Bolaba, one of the most respected politicians in this polity as we speak. And I can't say whatever that gentleman is saying should be discountenanced. But you know what? When you are also speaking out of holy hunger, when you are speaking out of disillusionment, when you are speaking out of frustration, let's just say that opinion is on the table. And as Nigerians, and as people who are concerned, not only primarily about the security of our nation, but about the integrity of our sovereign territory, I think we may still have many more options.
What other options do we have? This war has been on for a very, very long time. About
time I used this opportunity to let Nigerians know this is a marathon. Fighting terrorism anywhere in the world is never a sprint game. Nigerians, we need to reinforce our psyche. And it's about time, too. It's about time I encouraged you watching this program this morning that within where you live, the primary responsibility of security is incumbent on you and your neighbors.
Okay, so yes, it's the primary responsibility of citizens. But in Borno State, they don't have that luxury at this point.
They have civilian JTF.
They have the civilian. What are they doing enough?
But you know what? You want me to shock you?
No problem.
The 43 farmers that died were not killed by guns. They were not killed because they were running. These were farmers who must have known those who killed them. And those who killed them must have chipped them to the circumstance that made them to suddenly swap the situation and ultimately slaughter them. You know what? It tells me a lot about the sociological architecture of that environment, that many of these terrorists are known to their victims. And many of their victims may, because of biologic, cultural, and communal affinities, may be encouraging them. And you know what? We have seen it even in places like Lagos. The cultists are neither from Venus nor from Mars. The cultists hounding most neighborhoods now. They were children, they were raised in the neighborhood. And you know what? Occasionally when they are broke, they go agog. usually in the communities, because people like Balaba live in gated communities. We don't get afflicted. But the most, and I think it's about time I also stated this well enough to an average viewer. If you're watching this morning, most crimes affect those who are underprivileged the most. And you know the irony? Those who are within you are those who ultimately, because of opportunism and because of greed, go out to hurt you. The criminals are within.
They are within. So
Yes.
are we taking this war against insurgency seriously?
Nigerians are obviously taking it seriously, but our leaders, political and military, may be losing touch with reality. Not so much because they're not taking it seriously, but look at the pantomime that happened in the House of Representatives, and ultimately, because even the Speaker did not believe that it was the right thing to do, and he was openly entreating members not to submit the prayer, but at a point, because he knew the dynamics of the floor was going in support of submitting the prayer, he asked for a closed session, and when he asked for a closed session, after the closed session, they passed the resolution, did not put a date to it deliberately, because they weren't even sure that the president was going to honor it. But when he went to the president, as a result of contrition in the palace, in Aso Rock, as a result of contrition, somebody said the president will honor it. A date yet to be filled. And you see a political leadership that is consistently playing a comedic game of leadership to the followers. Are they well-intentioned? Yes. Are they acting up to par?
That's what we can take at this point.
Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Bola Oba, for being fiery at this point of this discussion.